Northern Colorado is known for its craft brewing scene, and Cy Bevenger is known as one of the best brewers in the area. So when Timnath Beerwerks was ready to open its doors, they knew Cy was the man to help them raise the bar and the garage door. Timnath Beerwerks put this small town on the map, and Cy Bevenger put this new tap house on the map in an area already saturated with great beer. But this master brewer didn't start off that way. Designing microchips most everyone has in their cell phones today, Cy spent the first half of his career as an electrical engineer, grinding out long hours, dying a little each day. But when his boss told him that he ought to consider something else, Cy took that advice, turned in his notice, and began a journey to find a new path. A path to a better way of living. A path to a better life. And through patience, practice, and a meticulous attention to detail, Cy the brewmaster emerged. Cutting his teeth in those early days, homebrewing for parties and events, Cy honed and perfected his craft with the same level of detail that he crafted those microchips. And the results have been nothing short of amazing. Timnath Beerwerks has burst on the scene, and Cy's great beers are obviously the reason why. So much so that they will be well represented in this year's Great American Beer Festival this weekend in Denver, Colorado. Covering 4 categories and with big expectations, it's easy to see why Cy's new path is not only the right one for him, but one that all beer drinkers get to enjoy as a result. So sit back, pour yourself a tasty beverage, and enjoy my recent conversation with Cy Bevenger. Get your mind right. I love that. This is working out pretty. Hopefully it comes together, man. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. This is the Extraordinary Podcast, and my guest today is Cy Bevenger. How's it going, man?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today.
Yeah, welcome him to Timnath Beerwerks.
Finally, for like the first of a couple of episodes here that I've been recording, I get to say, hey, man, it's been a long time since I've seen you because we've never met before. So this is a fortuitous experience. I'm really looking forward to it, man. Well, I guess let's kind of just start with where we're at and what we're doing today.
Yeah, so we're just doing a little podcast interview here at Timnath Beerwerks.
Timnath, Colorado.
Is northern Colorado, just outside of Fort Collins, about an hour north of Denver. So
beautiful out here.
Yes.
And one of the few places that hasn't yet quite been developed to the hilt just yet, but it's coming. It seems like, yeah. What is your role here at Timnath Beerwerks?
I came on board a little over about a year and a half ago, almost, and head brewer is my title, and then I am head brewer and co-owner here at Timnath Beerwerks. So.
Knee deep in, now there's no getting out of it.
Exactly.
No backing out
for
now.
For better or worse.
For better or for worse. And quite frankly, I have to say for better because I've gotten to take the tour and I've gotten the experience, and clearly what you guys are doing down here is something special. It's pretty amazing. And the quality of the product that you guys are putting out there, I think pretty well speaks for itself, right? Where did all this passion for brewing and all that, where did all that start? Is that something that's always been a thing for you? Did that start off in the home brewing scene like Craig?
I started off home brewing like Craig did. It was several years after him, and I've always enjoyed beer, eventually loved beer.
Always been a connoisseur, so to speak.
Been a connoisseur. And a couple years after I finished school, a friend of mine, he's like, hey, you love beer, why don't you make beer at home? And I'm like, oh, yeah. So I started.
Seems like a good idea.
Just connecting dots, and did a couple batches that weren't so great, and then started taking it more seriously and really dug in, and the beer started getting better. So
was there a kind of a pivotal moment that kind of sparked that for you, or is that just something that just kind of evolved over time, sort of thing?
I think it was more of an evolution. Yeah, it was the professional side of things converted me from a home brewer to a pro.
What was that conversion experience like? Because I was, like we were talking with Craig before, that's a big leap to go from the home brewing, just enjoying a little pastime or a hobby, to then taking it to that professional level. That's quite a big leap.
Yeah, it is. So I homebrewed for 8 or 9 years, and I have my day job And
What was your day job?
my day job
before this?
I was a engineer for a semiconductor company. So
Oh wow, that's a complete.
It's a totally different game.
Yeah.
We basically made chips that go into iPhones. So if you have an iPhone made in the last 8 years, you have a chip made here
No
right
kidding.
across the interstate in Fort Collins
Huh.
in your phone. And I was a part of that. Put a lot of work into it and contributed quite a bit. But the daily grind, which was above and beyond most people's daily grind, I think.
It's a tough schedule to work with.
Tough job.
Yeah, but yeah, because I'm sure you got some pretty tough deadlines to deal with. Anything in that realm of technology, I think, is very demanding.
Yeah, it
in
really
general.
is, and it's a pretty cutthroat business. So, that daily grind was wearing on me, and one day my manager, he kind of pulled me into his office, and he's like, "Hey, kind of notice that it's not really a level playing field for you, and you've got to work harder to get the same things done, the same approvals versus his other direct reports." And that kind of opened my eyes, and
Yeah, that had to be tough.
It
I
was
can imagine.
very tough, and there's plenty of direction you can go to comment about that positively or negatively.
Right.
or
There's a
whatever.
couple of different ways you could have handled that. So what was your reaction to that? What when he told you that?
I left his office and I went home. I don't know if I slept that night, and I put my notice in within a week.
How about that?
And it was maybe the hardest decision I've ever made.
I can imagine. Yeah, because that's a
I-
good paying gig.
it's a
It's
very
stressful,
good
but
paying
it's
gig.
certainly lucrative from a financial
Super lucrative.
standpoint.
Yep. I was lucky to have the job, lucky to have that money, but the trade-off for quality of life was
Just wasn't worth
not
it.
even close to worth it.
How about that?
So yeah, I left, spent 6 months unemployed, went backpacking, went camping,
Kind of doing a little self-discovery type
binge
stuff.
watched Game of Thrones in a month.
Got all caught up
all
on
those
all your
things
Netflix stuff.
you do
right.
when you don't have anything to do.
Certainly, yeah.
And-
I experienced some of that myself.
Yeah.
I know
was-
kind of how you feel.
I mean, it was good for me. It took a month to decompress to even realize, oh, this is where I should be.
And then, so tell me about after that month, and you've kind of had some time to get your thoughts straightened out, and kind of what happened then?
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had some money in the bank, so I was able to not stress about, paying the rent and all
Right.
that.
You had some
and
time to kind of
had
figure some things
time.
out.
And through my home brewing, I'd spent the last 7 or 8 years developing relationships around northern Colorado, making friends, getting to know people. And 2 months after I left, one of those friends offered me a job at the brewery he owns. And
Which is?
Which is Grimm Brothers.
Grimm Brothers, nice.
And I told him no.
Really?
First pass, I'm like,
Even though you were unemployed at the time and
I was
wasn't
unemployed.
sure
I was
what
2
you were
months
going
out
to
of
do?
this job. I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm like, this is still too fresh. So told him no. I told him why. Told him my head wasn't on straight. And
You weren't ready to make any
wasn't
kind
ready
of a
to
commitment.
go back to work. And
Wow, that's pretty powerful,
I didn't
man.
want to do them a disservice by half-assing a job or not having my head on straight. So
And getting kind of back into an experience kind of like what you had left or
Yeah.
walked away from, certainly.
Exactly. So I took another 4 months, and we talked about it again, and then I went to work for him.
How about that? So what was it that changed over those 4 months? Was it something that
just
he said
time.
different, or just you had
It was
time to
just
kind of process?
Ripples in the pond had to settle out. And
Beautiful.
yeah.
Well, that's amazing that you had the long-sighted vision to take some time to not jump on that first opportunity. Because I know, like that for me, when I was going through a similar experience, the only reason why I got started down this path is because a lot of those opportunities that I thought were going to work out, and I kind of, quite frankly, expected to, didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had have worked out like I expected them to, then I wouldn't have gone down the road. I wouldn't have taken that journey or made those decisions. So to have the foresight to then make that decision in that kind of a stressed state, that takes a lot of gumption, to
Or I was just dumb.
or just too stupid to see the light at the end of the tunnel,
Maybe.
right?
It's
Yeah.
one of the two.
That's that's remarkable. How about that?
Yep.
How did it feel getting into an entirely new situation like that with the Grimm brothers? How did all that kind of come to be? What was your experience there?
Great. It was invigorating. It was great to be part of a small family-owned company with.
Well, and a complete
10
again
employees.
180 from what you were doing before.
My previous job, prior to that was full-time, 70 or 80 hours a week, multi-billion-dollar international company,
Wow.
publicly traded, huge, huge company, and then you go to this company of 14 people.
Right. And like more like a family type environment.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
But
completely different.
I've always found it interesting to think that a $20 decision I made at Grimm Brothers is about the same as a $200,000 decision I made at my previous job.
Interesting.
Financially, you know.
Wow.
When
Yeah,
it comes to
because
the bottom line,
every
it's kinda
penny
crazy.
counts on those little small
Yeah.
deals. And how that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. That's interesting. So what was your big aha moment once you got into Grimm Brothers and got into that family? Did you ever have a point in time where you were kind of like, this, I found something here, this is the right decision? Or was there an aha moment for you for that?
No, it was kind of organic. It
Kind of
over
evolution over time?
Yeah, and it predates me joining Grimm, like getting to know people around this area in the industry.
With the home brewing.
Seeing how they work with each other and like the crossover from home brewing into the professional side. Just seeing how breweries work and how they treat their customers and how they're a part of the community and how they treat their employees. It's a good thing to be a part of.
What's the most appealing aspect of all those things you just mentioned? What's the most appealing of that for you personally? Like, what keeps you from going back to a high-paying, high-stress job?
It's certainly not the money.
Come to realize that it's not really about that.
It's
so
not.
much.
Work-to-life balance, and trust
Beautiful.
me, I work my butt off here. Like,
Oh yeah, certainly.
there are 60-hour weeks here at the brewery.
But they sure do feel a lot different, though, don't they?
They feel a whole lot different.
Isn't that ironic how that works?
Yeah, it's a much shorter feedback loop between what you do and the results you see versus the high-end,
Yeah,
high-paying job.
completely different perspective.
So,
Certainly.
yeah, it's cool in that respect.
Certainly a lot more rewarding as well. I mean, even though that work that you were doing in the high-tech field was certainly important, and so there's certainly some reward for that because you're
Yeah.
providing a very important service in that regard. But for you personally, you don't get to see that direct impact. You don't get to feel that, as an engineer behind a desk, So I can certainly understand that for sure.
Yep.
It seems like even before coming to Timnath, you had a little bit of a reputation for the quality of your beers. So I was wondering, how was it that your beer stood out so much compared to, again, we talked about this market being so saturated.
Right.
What made yours stand out so much?
It might go back to the engineer in me,
The
6
attention
years
to
in
detail
school,
and some of that
attention to
stuff?
detail, high bar you set on quality. And
Nice. I didn't
I got
think about that,
into judging beer in the home brewing community
Before you went to the
before I
professional
went
side?
to the pro side.
Well,
and
that certainly gave you
that
a lot
really
of good
helped dial
perspective,
things
didn't it?
in. Yeah. So, I understand the basics of what beer should not taste like and what beer
Yeah.
should taste like. And
I think that knowing what beer should not taste like is probably more valuable than knowing what
absolutely.
it should.
And then taking that and how to do that, how to prevent flaws or mistakes. And I'm a pretty analytical person, and I've been able to kind of leverage all of that. And
You think that's
together.
helped you to be successful in this field?
I do.
Yeah, that's great. And where did you go to school for all your engineering background and all that?
University of Wyoming. It's
Oh,
about
nice.
an hour up the road in Laramie.
Yeah,
So-
and you grew up in Wyoming?
I did in Cody.
That's beautiful. I mean, it looks just like here, but it's, again,
Yeah.
beautiful country.
Yep, it
Up there
is.
near Yellowstone, all that's great.
Yep.
I've got to vacation a little bit up there, got to have some exposure, and I just love it. I think it's a great area.
Yeah.
For sure.
Great place to grow up.
So how are you continuing to learn in this industry?
I'm kind of one of those people that always needs to be learning. So I'm reading, listening to podcasts, I'm cruising the internet.
You do a pretty good bit of reading?
Yeah, most of it's digital nowadays.
That leads me to my next question. If you're reading, I'm assuming you're probably doing some audiobooks. What's your ratio of consumption of audiobooks to traditional?
Like 20 to 1.
20 to 1. No kidding. Yeah. So you're really consuming on the audio side quite a bit. Awesome. What are you listening to right now? What are you reading?
Just random brewing podcasts and
any books in particular? that I can make note of?
There's one book, I'm rereading it actually. It's by Stephen Hawking called A Brief History of Time.
Oh, I love that book.
So
That's a great.
It really good book.
That's becoming like a classic now because it's been around for a minute.
It belongs on that list. It just kind of
Absolutely.
breaks down physics for everybody. So I've read a lot as a kid. Read a lot. I mean, I read
Who instilled that in you?
my parents,
Nice.
both of them for sure.
Excellent.
I read Tolkien. I've read Clancy. I've read Grisham. A lot of the classics.
Oh, the good fiction guys. If you were to give a book away, what would be the book that you would give to somebody like me?
Ender's Game.
Really?
Orson
Nice.
Scott Card, I think.
Yeah.
It's a futuristic,
Little sci-fi.
dystopian
Yeah.
sci-fi kind of thing, but really cool
I actually
book.
have not read that book. Both my sons have, but I actually haven't read
it's
that.
fantastic.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yep.
That's great. I appreciate that. And so you talked about podcasts. Are there any other podcasts or shows you're listening to outside the beer world, or is it all pretty much it stays within that beer realm?
I follow national and international politics pretty closely.
Oh, do you?
More to just stay abreast of things and stay in the loop. Some financial stuff like how to pay off your house quickly and how to do budgets.
You know
and
Dave
all that
Ramsey.
stuff.
You hear his podcast? Yeah, he's a good one. I like him. I like his personal finance philosophies. They're real
absolutely.
good. So early bird or night owl?
Early bird. If I'm up past midnight, it is a special occasion. So.
That's funny. Me too. I'm the same way. It's and being out here, my sleep schedule's gotten all screwed up, so it's been even more hectic trying to get on that track.
Like to be up when the sun's up for sure.
Yeah, I love that morning window. The beer industry is so big in this state, and the microbrewery in particular. What do you think this industry as a whole is going to look like over the next 10 years? What's the evolution that you see going on?
In the next 2 years, I think it's going to continue the neighborhood focus.
This kind of neighborhood tap room feel, meeting house.
Things are super tight right now for the mid to large size breweries that are on the shelf in the liquor stores. So yeah, I think the neighborhood thing is definitely where it's at for the next couple of years. Beyond 2 years, I have no idea.
It's really that hard to predict.
If you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I never could have predicted the hazy IPA trend, the seltzer trend that's happening right now, which I don't think is going away.
Well, tell me a little bit about those. Being somebody who's not in the mix with beer at all, tell me about those things because I don't know what those are.
I mean, people are looking for things that are easy to drink, things that are healthy, and the hazy IPA
more than traditional beer,
more than the IPA that's bitter and big on flavor.
Hoppy.
Like bitterness is offensive to some people, and they want a beer that's big on flavor that's not bitter. So that's where hazy IPA came from, out of New Hampshire and Vermont, honestly.
No kidding.
And Massachusetts and up there. Yeah, so that's hazy IPA, and everyone said that was a trend 5 years ago,
and here it is going strong still today.
It's incredible.
Yeah, because that's one of your better sellers, correct?
It's our best seller.
It is your best seller, no kidding.
By quite a bit.
No kidding. How about that? I wouldn't have not have necessarily assumed that to be.
And yeah, now this seltzer thing.
They're just infusing seltzer into the beer or to make it more carbonated? Or
technically, if you make it with corn sugar or malt sugar, it's considered beer, like per the federal government.
Okay.
So it's low calorie and it's...
So, but what's the main difference between regular beer? I'm not sure that I'm following.
It's a gluten-free option.
If
you make it with corn sugar. So that's the gluten-free thing.
You're using corn sugar instead of
malt sugar.
Malt sugar.
Right.
Huh.
Maltose. So it's a gluten-free option for people that either are choosing or their body is choosing not to do the gluten thing. And
interesting.
It's a significant part of the market.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, that gluten-free diet has certainly taken off. I mean, that's a trend that's probably not going away. So if
I don't think it is.
And there's certainly people in that demographic that want to drink beer. So that would make sense that it's not necessarily going away. How long has that been a thing?
Locally, I'm going to say a couple months.
Oh, so it's fresh on the scene
super
kind of thing.
fresh.
Oh, okay. That
nationally,
would explain why I don't know about it.
Maybe 2 years. Like, you've got the Truly brand. I think that's Sam Adams. Like, there's 3 or 4 brands out there, and Miller and Coors, they all have their seltzer
Their
brands
version
now,
of
but,
it or whatever. Is that kind of like what the Zima was or whatever kind of thing? Is that in that realm kind of thing?
And there's memes that connect the two on the internet all over the place. It's pretty funny.
Gotcha. Yeah, now there's like the new evolution of all the Zimas. I've actually got a buddy, he's hilarious. He does a podcast and he's an actor and he's kind of off the wall, Ross Patterson. But he's got a thing for Zima and he'll do these Instagram commercials for Zima that are just hilarious. It's a real treat to watch, but it's funny because when it came back out, he got all excited and there's a bunch of hoopla or whatever. But anyway.
So yeah, I don't know where seltzer's going. I'm working on a recipe right now. It is not
because
the
you
same
guys
as
don't
making beer.
currently offer a seltzer beer,
No,
correct? Yeah,
correct.
But you got one coming though.
Working on it. It's a couple things I want to lock down. And
so tell me about that process. Do you kind of go back to the home brewing to do some when you're experimenting with new beers and new styles, or do you still treat it on that professional scale as you do with all your regular beers?
I'm going to do a large scale batch of it. And
you're going to do the full scale run?
If it's not good, we'll dump it down the drain. That's something I asked in my interview here. It was one of my first questions is, if a batch goes bad, can I dump it down the drain? They said yes. So
that's huge.
That still stands.
Yeah, that commitment to quality certainly says something. I mean, that's very, very important, especially in a tap room situation.
With something as out of the ordinary as seltzer for us. I mean,
right. That's certainly not outside the norm.
Yeah.
For most microbreweries, I would think. So. Do most are most microbreweries doing a seltzer now, or is it?
I wouldn't say most. I would say maybe 1 in 10.
But you expect that trend to?
I think so.
Increase.
It's going to pick up. Yeah. Everyone's going to try. We'll see how well they do.
Yeah, how well it does. Well, and again, it all goes back to the quality. If you're putting out a good quality product, people are going to drink it and like it. And but if the quality's not there, then it won't last for long, probably. Right. So, any other things in the works that you're excited about that might be coming up, or you got to just kind of stick with what you got, other than the seltzer one?
Brewing our first Hefeweizen tomorrow, so German wheat beer.
Nice.
That's a recipe.
That's a very traditional.
It is, and it's a recipe I brought in from homebrewing. It won a medal at a homebrew competition, and
how about that?
You know, it's worked out. We'll see if it's the same as it was.
See how it does on the big scale.
On a bit different scale.
On a big scale.
Yeah.
What are the challenges recreating what you've made in the homebrew on this larger scale?
A lot of it's efficiencies. Larger scale is typically more efficient, so if you just multiply it volume-wise, so going from 5 gallons to 7 barrels, it's a factor of 42 or something.
Wow.
If you just do that, typically your 5% beer at 5 gallons is going to be a 7% beer at 7 barrels. So trying to figure out the difference in those efficiencies.
Now, why is that?
It's just different extract rates and how the sugar is rinsed out of the mash, and
that's
a whole
fascinating.
string of things. And hops are utilized differently.
Are there any other odd differences like that?
There's a bunch of other odd differences.
Yeah.
So,
That's pretty cool. Any ones that you want to share or talk about? That would be interesting?
No, not really.
Not so much.
I don't know.
But definitely that's another thing I
game.
talked about with Craig. It's a whole different world going from the homebrew world to the professional tap room.
Yeah.
I mean, it's night and day, quite frankly. There's very few things.
The cool thing, though, is the science behind it's the same.
Yeah, the physics still work.
The same.
Right, the same.
Yeah, all these things happen.
Just
at a
like
very
they did
small
2,000
level,
years ago when they first figured this stuff out.
Yep.
That's what makes it so neat.
Yep.
Well, and I think there's something to be said about going through that craft experience. Both Craig and I come from that construction background, so like that, getting your hands dirty, being knee deep into it. It's very rewarding when you have a product at the end of the day.
Yes.
For Craig and I, it would be like, we would building shelves or installing that new kitchen or whatever, and like you've got something that you can take a picture of. There's something tangible there.
Yes.
And for you guys, it's that, you've got that beer, that product that is a result of your labors.
Yes.
And that's a very rewarding place to be, for sure.
Is.
Is there any advice that you would give to someone in this industry that's just getting started?
It's kind of cliche, but when you're getting going, double your budget and triple your schedule for what you plan, because that's just how it's going to work out.
That's just how it is. It's always more expensive than you want it to be.
Yep. and it always takes longer. Permitting was maybe the toughest part of us getting up and going. So getting your licenses from state and federal government, that took much longer than we expected, much longer than it should have, frankly, but that's the way it goes. So
yeah, there's always those challenges that you come across. And,
yes.
And the cool thing, like, again, what we were talking about earlier, is that when you have the passion for it, you find ways to overcome those challenges. You find ways around what you've got to overcome, or you work through them because you're so passionate about it. You find a way.
Yeah.
I think that's such a key aspect of success in anything that you're doing.
The other thing I'd say is find the right team.
The right group of people to be around.
Find the right group of people to bring into your business.
So that brings me to something that I did want to bring up. So you obviously had a really good experience at Grimm Brothers. And got a really great experience going on here. Tell me about the transition of going from Grimm Brothers to here.
It was interesting. Grimm was going through a transition themselves, and so I was able to help them.
With management or with
just how they were approaching
business?
things. The business, their distribution game kind of got switched up on them for reasons out of their control, and so I helped them get things into place to make that change. The timing was right, so I made sure things were good to go there and put my notice in.
Covered all your bases there, made sure everything was lined up. That's excellent. So you still obviously have a good relationship with them and still keep up with that crowd? That's great, man. That's awesome.
Good Very people over there and good friends of mine, honestly.
Yeah, that's great.
We were good friends beforehand.
And maintain that now today. That's a beautiful thing. It's funny because I had something similar. I used to work with Tom Heiser, and it was a similar situation. And obviously we maintained a good, solid relationship after that. That's good. That's so important that you be able to do that.
And the brewing community is too small. I mean, you burn bridges around here, and it's tough.
Yeah.
And you get a reputation, and it's tough to mend that. So.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to that mentoring and the friendly environment that the microbrew scene is in this town. It lends itself to people wanting to help one another rather than, like you said, burning bridges and separating yourself from others. That's great.
Yep.
We talked about kind of the future and where we'd like to see things 5-10 years from now, but what's the story that you want to be remembered for, or how do you want to be remembered?
I think I just want to be remembered as someone that did things the right way. I mean, it's hard to...
That's the engineer in you.
It is the engineer in me. And, I'm not one that takes huge compliments very well. I mean, it's like just doing my thing here.
Yeah.
Doing my best.
I know that feeling.
I appreciate that, but
this is just what I do.
Yeah, pat on the back and a thank you is plenty. I don't need accolades and...
Well, and quite frankly, I'm the guy that, give me some things I can do to improve on. I don't need you telling me I'm doing a good job. That's fine and dandy, but let's talk about how I can do better. Let's talk about what can be better on the next round or that next batch of beer. It's always that internal drive to improve. And I think that goes back to that desire for learning that you have as well.
It does.
When you have that passion for learning, you can't help but always seek to improve. You can't help but to seek those
I'm my own worst critic.
Yeah,
so.
We all are. I always give my guests an opportunity to give shout-outs and plugs to friends, family, businesses, charities, anything like that. Do you have anybody? And first and foremost, let's talk about, if you're comfortable putting your information out there, if you want people to know who you are, how to see what you're doing and what's going on.
Yeah, sure. I'm on Facebook and
you do Instagram.
So a little bit. I'm on there. I don't post
much.
What's
your Instagram handle?
Cy Bevenger. CY.
Wow, you got your name just played up
name.
Straight up. That's a rarity.
First and last are unique. So
yeah, that's true with Cy. That's a pretty good one. You got the cool name to go with the cool job, man. Yeah. That's awesome. Tell me about your business website and your business Instagram.
Yep. So timnathbeerwerks.com. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook.
Beerwerks with an E.
With an E. Thank you. And our marketing guy Nate does a fantastic job. And
awesome guy. I can tell.
We help out where we can, and
that's great, man. Well, Cy, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time to get together with us. I'm really excited about what you guys are doing, and much success to you guys, man. I'm really proud to be able to get to meet you and spend some time with you, man.
Really appreciate
doing a great job and good dude, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right, see you.
See you.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening. So what'd you think? What did I miss? Anything that you wanted to hear that I didn't cover? What do you want to know more about? Who would you like to see on the show? Hit us up on social media and tell me what you think. Check us out on iTunes and please leave a review. We're now on Patreon, and your support there helps let us know we're headed in the right direction. We have a lot of exciting new things coming, fascinating guests, and some of the craziest stories you won't believe. So stay in the loop and check out more great content by subscribing at our website, 8keystoGreat.com. Special thanks to my guests and all those of you living an extraordinary life. This is Nate G. We'll see you next week.